All right, let's go ahead and go through the lesson 4.6, Ready, Set, Go. For the ready portion, we're trying to set up inequalities and then solve for certain parts of it. So the first one, amusement park selling summer memberships, $50 each. Normal admission to the park costs $25, so $50 each, big deal. Normal admission to the park costs $25 each time you go, but for the members, it costs $15. Okay. Darren wants to spend no more than $100 on trips to the amusement park. How many can he make if he buys a membership with part of that money? So what we need to figure out is that he wants to spend no more than $100. Well, that's less than or equal to. And the big part here is that he's going to buy the membership. The membership is $50. And then once you have the membership, it's only $15 per visit. So I'm going to say that V is the visit. I'll put that off to the side. V stands for visits. And if I were to solve this inequality, so the first step to solving this inequality is to subtract 50 from each side. I'm trying to get that constant moved and isolating the variables. So 15v is less than or equal to 50. Then it is a matter of dividing 15 on both sides. And 50 divided by 15 would get me 10/3, which means that it is less than 3 1/3, less than or equal to 3 1/3, which really means you can't go a third of a time. So how many visits can he make? At most 3 visits. Anything more than that, and Darren goes over the cost of the trip. What if he pays normal admission instead? Well, normal admission is $25 per trip, and he needs to spend less than or equal to $100. Divide both sides by 25, and you would say that he can go at most 4 times. Now his budget's up to $160. As a member, 50 plus 15v is less than or equal to $160. Subtract 50 from both sides. So you've got 15v is less than or equal to 110. Divide both sides by 15. So v would be less than or equal to 22/3. Or that would be 7 1/3. So he would have to have v is less than or equal to 7 visits. As a non-member, just a regular old fella, $25 a pop. At 160, dividing that out on both sides, v is less than or equal to, we have 25 goes into 160. So we've got, let's just simplify it, dividing the top and bottom by the greatest common factor, which would be 5. So we have 32/5, which means that it is 6 2/5. So v is less than or equal to 6 visits. Really, because you can't go in at a partial amount of visits. For the set portion, solve and justify. So the first thing that we'll do here is we'll divide both sides by -5 because we have -5 times x. The inverse is division. And the justification, I'm not going to write these out. These are things that you can go off of the verbal, but this should help a little bit. This divides to 1, and x is greater than -7. I put that star there to give me that mental reminder that when I multiply or divide by a negative coefficient, I need to flip the sign. Number 5, we're going to add 4 to both sides. And then divide by 2. X should be less than or equal to 7. And for number 7, it is x divided by -3. So the inverse of that would be multiplying by -3. And keep in mind here that we've got a multiplication or division by a negative coefficient. Right there, x is less than 30 over 9. And we can simplify that down to 10 over 3. For number 9, solve it, then graph it. So to solve, we're going to add, that's not 9, that's 8. So we'll add 8 to both sides. X would be greater than -12. So the big thing here is understanding how the inequality works. We're going to sit at -12, and greater than means that we're going to go to the right. For number 11, solve each multi-step inequality. So we're going to subtract 3 on both sides. 4x is less than -4. Divide 4 on both sides. X is less than -1. Now we don't flip the sign here because we're not multiplying or dividing by a negative number. For number 13, we'll distribute that 5 in. So 20x plus 15 is greater than or equal to 9x minus 18 minus x. We've got some cleanup to do, so I'm going to switch the colors here. We have 9x and -x. Well, that would be 9x minus x, which is 8x minus 18. 20x plus 15. We'll subtract 15 on both sides. End up with 20x is greater than or equal to 8x minus 33. Subtract 8x. You get 12x is greater than or equal to -33. And when you divide by 12 on both sides, you would end up with x is greater than or equal to -33 over 12. Okay. Number 15, tricky one. Solve the equation for C. So here's how this one works. First, get the outside stuff away from the variable. Okay, get it as far away. So we're going to subtract 32 on both sides. So we would have f minus 32 equals 9/5 C. And to get the 9/5 out of there, we'll multiply both sides by 5/9. So our solution for this would be C equals 5/9 f minus 32. This is a real conversion going from Fahrenheit to Celsius, or Celsius to Fahrenheit. Okay. I'll do number 16 because 17's cut off. We've got volume, and this is volume of a cylinder. So you have the v is isolated right now. We need to get it to where r is the variable that's isolated. So here's what we can do. First thing is I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. And it would get me 3v equals not 1/3. These 3's will cancel. Get pi r squared h. Next, I'll get the pi and the h out of the way. Divide by pi and h. Pi's cancel, h's cancel. And you end up with r squared equals 3v over pi h. Now, the tricky part here is that we haven't really gone over square roots. But r squared, the inverse of squaring something, is to take the square root. Like 8 squared is 64, but to get it back to 8, I would take the square root of 64 to get 8. Hit both sides by a square root, which means that r would equal the square root of 3v all over pi h. This one here, very difficult. But I want you to try these. I want you to try your best to try to manipulate these literal equations into what it is that you're looking for. Hopefully this helps. Reach out if you have any questions.